Assalamu alaikum, welcome. Hope you're doing really well. It is Friday, and I just thought it'd be a good opportunity for you to hear directly from somebody who knows the thing about moon sighting. So, two of my guests today are going to talk to you about the difference, why there's a difference, and where this difference has come from, how we can understand it better, and what is the difference. My first guest is somebody called Raja Zahid Nawaz. He's from, so ringing me there. So he's from the West Midlands. He's been very active in the issue of moon sighting. We're waiting for him to join us, inshallah. He'll be joining us very shortly. And then in the second part of the program, sort of live broadcast, we're going to have somebody called Kamaruddin from York. He's part of the Jubandi community, but he's been very active in terms of wanting to do something around local moon sighting, and he's done some fantastic work across the country to get local moon sighting ready for Eid. So we're waiting for Raja Zahid Nawaz. I'm just sharing this on my public page as well to talk about that. So how is everybody? Obviously very sad news about what is happening. Qibla Raja Zahid Nawaz Sahab is here, but it doesn't allow me to add to the pro. Why doesn't it allow me to add? Okay, Raja Sahab, got this. There we are. So I'm watching you, Raja Zahid Nawaz Sahab, but we can't seem to add you. Why is that Zahid Nawaz? If you ask to add, let me see if I can add Raja Zahid Nawaz. It says you're not on here, Raja Zahid Nawaz. So where are you, Raja Zahid Nawaz? I can see everybody else, but I can't see you, Raja Zahid Nawaz. So we'll try to sort that out. So really it's about trying to understand what the circumstances are around moon sighting, why there was a difference. I know we covered this at the beginning of Ramadan, why the Saudis' viewpoint and opinion, and what is the difference in terms of the rest of us, and why do we generally tend to follow Morocco or South Africa. That's an issue which people want to talk about. I'm just waiting, inshallah, for Qibla Raja Zahid Nawaz. For some reason, I think he needs to shut it down and then open it again. So shut your Raja Zahid Nawaz, shut your Facebook down, go back into it, click on the link, and inshallah you'll be added, and we should be able to add you on this. We're doing that anyway, aren't we? Okay. So inshallah that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk to him, and then at 7:30 inshallah we're going to try to talk to Kamaruddin Sahab from York. Alhamdulillah, those of you who don't know him, he's moon sighting on when is Eid? Just posted this, sorry everyone, on Facebook. And then I'll just put it on Twitter as well. So let's see, Raja Zahid Nawaz, what is happening to you, sir? Where are you? We really need you. So I'm just typing this. So how is everyone? How's the Ramadan been? How's your Friday been? Are you ready for the weekend? Long weekend. It's nice actually having a bank holiday weekend and it also been Eid. So I'm kind of, I say I'm off work. I'm off my day job, so I don't have to do my day job. Kamaruddin. Okay, so Kamaruddin Sahab is watching us, but I don't understand how I can add Kamaruddin Sahab. Is it me? Kamaruddin Sahab. Sorry, I don't understand this. Why is Kamaruddin Sahab not being given the opportunity to join me? I don't understand what that is. So is that something wrong with? I don't think it's wrong with me, because I can add other people on here. So Kamaruddin Sahab and also Raja Zahid Nawaz, just have to make sure that you've updated your Facebook app to the latest version, because the ability to add somebody, Raja Zahid Nawaz, please, if you update your Facebook app to the latest that you have in terms of your app, so it's updated so that you can log in. Discussing, I'm just tweeting this, Eid. And then in the meanwhile, we'll just try to sort this out. I do apologise that we've got a slight problem. Between groups. So I can bring other people on, but it seems I can't seem to bring Raja Zahid Nawaz in. And I think it's to do with the fact you've got an old version of Facebook. And so what you need to do is just need to refresh your Facebook, and you do that by updating the app. So Raja Zahid Nawaz, Kamaruddin Sahab, please, I know you're on, just need to update your app. It's a police van just parked outside my house. I don't know what, it's not obviously they're here to arrest me. And okay, so that looks better. So we hope that's doing. So whilst we're waiting for them to come on, Kamaruddin, Raja Zahid Nawaz. Yes, let's bring him on. So Raja, he's going to be in our video very, very shortly. And countries, and he's just going to tell us between now and 7:30 about what it is, why there's a difference. We're bringing him on, we're adding, something's happening, it says adding, and inshallah Raja Zahid Nawaz is going to tell us all the answers, or so I think. Are you there, Raja Zahid Nawaz? We're waiting for you, sir. The guest declined the live video invitation. Now, I don't know why would Raja Zahid Nawaz do that? Why would you do that, Raja Zahid Nawaz? I'm just waiting, see if I can share this. Sorry, let's have a look. Raja Zahid Nawaz, where are you, sir? I want to approve you. Something wrong with this. I don't know how it's happening, but I think it's really important to have a discussion just to educate ourselves. And I know it's the responsibility of imams and it's the responsibility of mosque committees and moon sighting committees to know the issues. It's not our issue, as people would say, just follow. And I generally tended to say to people, just follow your local mosque. Don't necessarily, understand where we are. So where are we? Whilst we're trying to find Raja Sahib, we're trying to add him. So whilst we wait for Raja Sahib to add himself, I wanted to tell you, so what the Saudi announcement is, the Saudi government, because today is their 29th fast, have sent out people to look for the moon, and there is scientifically no evidence that the moon can be seen, and therefore they've announced that they'll complete their 30 days and their Ramadan will end and their Eid will be on Sunday. Now the rest of us, I keep adding Raja Zahid Nawaz and it's just not working. So I wanted to talk just about that, just to think what people, it's what we can do in terms of. So I'm just trying to share this as well. Why is this not working? Why is Raja Zahid Nawaz not on here? Yeah. Kibla, Raja Sahib, I don't know what's happening there, but I really want to hear from you today. We should have really done a sound check, really. We should have checked it before we went on air. That's true. So that's where we are. So the Saudi government, Supreme Court announced this evening. It's not working. Why is Raja Zahid Nawaz? So the Saudis announced that the moon couldn't be sighted, and therefore they're going to complete their 30 fast and they'll do Eid on the Sunday. In terms of Morocco and South Africa, for those of us who follow the nearest Islamic country being Morocco or South Africa, where there's a well-established moon sighting process, it looks very likely that the moon is visible in Africa over the next 24 hours. Sorry, tomorrow evening. So Raja Zahid Nawaz, I don't know what's happening, Sir Qibla. Maybe you need to switch your phone off and switch your phone back on and then try again. I don't know. Let's try that. I apologize. We're trying to get Raja Zahid Nawaz on. So then you've got Saudi Arabia, who followed the opinion, which is there should be the birth of the moon. So they say science has developed so much now that you can tell when the moon is going to be born. And therefore, once the moon is born, then you should start your month and you should do your 30 rosé or your 29th rosé and do your Eid. And then you have a second opinion, which is around local moon sighting. So you should try to see the moon in the country in which you live. So that's mean here in the UK, we go out. There's groups of people who go out to see if they can see the moon. And if that's not possible for you, then to follow the nearest Islamic country, which is Morocco. And they obviously follow the same viewpoint, which is you look for the moon and you can't start or finish your month unless you've seen the moon or unless you complete your 30 days. I hope that kind of gives you a good summary of what we're trying to do. Raja Zahid Nawaz Sahib is, we're trying to add to him and it's not working. And so we'll try. I don't know what else where we can try this. Anybody got any ideas? How we can connect somebody. And he is here. Raja Zahid Nawaz Sahib. Thank you, sir.
Indeed, after that struggle, we finally managed to connect.
We did. So we were just talking about the difference, Raja Sahib, between the Saudis and the Moroccans, people like yourself and other people. Just for our people watching this, tell us the basic differences between the two.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Firstly, Brother Shafiq, can I thank you for arranging this online discussion to discuss an important issue which affects the Muslim community, not just in this country, but in fact, it's a subject which is discussed across the Ummah. Yeah. So it's a very hot issue which is debated in our front rooms, in our living rooms, and even children talk about this because it affects their schools, it affects employment. So it's really close to our hearts and minds. So I think the first thing to bear in mind is to understand what is the source of the dispute.
Yeah.
And the source of the dispute is that people living in Western countries in particular, and even in countries like Pakistan, they decide to follow another country in particular. They follow those countries which themselves rely on calculations. And then they make the claim that the moon has been sighted, which causes unnecessary confusion. So basically, the country which is most followed is Saudi Arabia. And unfortunately, Saudi Arabia's moon sighting criterion is based on the principle of the birth of the moon or the moon setting before sunset. But there is no visibility, Brother Shafiq, in their criterion. Therefore, we have this confusion that those who follow the principles of the visibility of the crescent moon versus those who follow either calculations simply to determine the birth of the moon or to determine whether the moon has set before the moon or before the sun or after sunset. So for example, if I was to illustrate that in today's context, which is very important to note. Now, Saudi has announced around 6:50 that there will be no Eid tomorrow. Yet, if you look at the Saudi Arabia's calculations in terms of astronomical data, the moon was not even born at that time. 2039 was the Saudi time for the moon to be born.
Yeah.
What were they looking for today? Even before the birth of the moon, they are looking for the crescent. This is virtually impossible to see. And then they make the claim that the moon was not sighted. How could you sight the moon when it hasn't even reached the stages of conjunction? So that is very, very important to note.
Yeah.
So then we also need to take into account that today, if somebody claims that they were trying to look for the moon, they must bear in mind that the moon actually set 11 minutes before sunset. What were you trying to look for? So this is the confusion which takes place. So today's claim that the moon was born, the moon was sighted, is absolutely, was not sighted, was absolutely baseless, because the moon wasn't even born. How could you sight it?
So
And then
just
what
on
is
that,
even
just
more, what is even more cynical, that those mosques which follow Saudi, they also announce. So if you look on their Twitter accounts, around 4:50, one mosque in Birmingham announced that the moon has not been sighted in Saudi Arabia. Therefore, Eid will be on Sunday and they'll complete the 30 days duration of Ramadan. So my question is that if the moon was not even born, how could you be possibly citing this before its conjunction? This is a fundamental flaw which people need to understand. And if I may add, people may think that we are just making all this up against the Saudi. Absolutely wrong. The Saudi moon sighting criterion has changed 3 times. They had a criterion which they use up to the year 1419. The Islamic calendar now is 1441. And in that first criterion, which they used up to 1419, the principle was that if the moon was 12 hours old, they would accept it.
Okay.
Just 12 hours. Then they changed in 1420, and the new criterion lasted between the year 1420 to 1422. And that criterion was, and I'll give you the exact details, that if the moon sets after the sun on the 29th, they would accept it. Then they changed again on the new criterion, which is the current criterion, which started from the year 1423 up to now. And that criterion is that the moon needs to be born before sunset, number one. And secondly, the moon needs to set after sunset. But in all those 3 phases, what we need to note is there is no visibility at all. It is all either the moon is 12 hours old, the moon sets after sunset, then they regard this as the first day. But in all these 3 phases, there is no visibility of the crescent.
So you've talked about currently this occasion. But going back to what I was saying earlier on, there's 2 opinions there, isn't there? There's the Saudi, which go by the birth of the moon, and people like yourself and say the other people, the Moroccan method, the South African method, which is based on the sighting of the moon. Just explain in simple English what the difference is between the 2.
The difference is very simple, that on the 29th of the month, we wait until sunset. And in these countries that you have mentioned, they engage in a process of actual moon sighting, not just for the month of Ramadan, for Shawwal or Zulhijjah, but for all of the 12 months of the Islamic calendar. They have established moon sighting systems in place, and they make announcements. They ask the people to sight the crescent, and then they verified whether it's possible to sight it or not to sight it. And if I may add, Brother Shafiq, it's not just Morocco or South Africa that we're looking at. Countries like Oman, for example, countries like Zambia, for example, countries like Mozambique, for example, countries like Pakistan, India, Yemen, all these countries, they actually sight the moon,
Yeah.
and they have established moon sighting systems in place. Whereas when we look at Saudi Arabia, they have an established calendar based on the phases I've just explained. And now there is the most recent phase that they use in their al Qura calendar. Same principle is being used by the some of the Gulf states which follow Saudi Arabia. Even in countries like Turkey, for example, Turkey does not sight the crescent. They rely on calculations, and this was established in 1978. They had a conference on between 27th to the 30th of November, and at least 22 countries participated in that conference. But only Turkey is the country, and some European countries like Bosnia, for example, they decided to follow Turkey rather than adopting the method which the majority of those countries who participated in the conference agreed to. And their principle is that if the crescent moon is 5 degrees the altitude or 8 degrees, they accept it. There is no attempt to actually sight the crescent moon. Whereas all of the other countries who participated in that conference categorically said, including countries like Morocco, including countries like Pakistan, they made it very clear in that conference. I have the paper here. And in that proceeding, they make it very clear that we will only accept actual moon sighting.
Actual moon sighting. Just going to say, we you a bit better. It's not very clear. I don't know what it sounds in terms of. We're getting a very dark screen. I'm going to carry on. So that's so much better. Yeah, we can see you now. We can see you in your elegance.
Thank you.
So just tell me about the situation in terms of where, I mean, because in the 30s, am I right? The Jubandis, the Brelvis, they had one formula. They all agreed on the same formula. It's only, when did it change?
Actually, when the early, they used to rely on exclusive news from outside the country. So they used to go either some followed Saudi, some followed Morocco, without making any attempts of local moon sighting or without relying on astronomical data. Now we have a situation where this field has really, really evolved into a state that it gives you more or less accurate information, more or less. I can't say precisely, because one thing to bear in mind that all of the prediction models, whether it's the model by the Greenwich Observatory, which Dr. Bernard Joliffe developed, whether it's the model of Khalid Shaukat, Professor Ilyas, or the Jordan astronomical model, bear one thing in mind, that none of these models use the weather conditions as a criterion. So these can all be predictions, but on the day, if the weather deteriorates, you won't see the crescent moon. So for example, if the astronomical data is saying that the moon will be sighted in Pakistan tomorrow, inshallah, and if the Minister for Science or Technology is going around showing his app, saying that on the app you could actually see that the moon will be visible on Saturday, the 23rd. But what if the weather conditions deteriorate tomorrow and there are so much clouds that you cannot see the moon? The Royat-e-Hilal committee, the moon sighting committee, will say that we could not sight the moon, therefore we complete the 30 days of Ramadan and do Shawwal, i.e. Eid al-Fitr, on Monday. That would be the real way forward.
Even though the astronomy says that the moon is possible to be seen, you'd still do your 30 days because it's safer?
Absolutely, because those countries which rely on actual moon sighting, they will go on those reports rather than the calculations. Bear in mind, calculations cannot be used exclusively to make the decision of the beginning of the Islamic month. This is a secondary source. The primary source is your attempts of sighting the moon. Once those moon, you have reports from those countries that the moon has been sighted, then the moon sighting committees use the secondary source, which is the calculations, to verify those news, whether it's credible, whether it's possible to see the moon or not, the crescent moon.
Yeah, yeah.
But they don't rely on the calculations exclusively at the expense by negating actual moon sighting.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I think that's clear for everyone. I hope everybody watching this understands. I think it's important to get the background right,
Very
to get the
important to
scientific.
understand. Calculations are a secondary source of information. Your primary source of information is your first-hand attempts at sighting the moon. Now, that's countries like Pakistan, Oman, Morocco, South Africa. But Alhamdulillah, what we are seeing here, especially amongst the young Muslims in this country, is that there is a growing trend of actually sighting the moon even here, even during a COVID lockdown period. We saw that in Ramadan, using all the safety precautions, our Muslim brothers and sisters across the UK went out to actually make attempts to sight the moon. And even tomorrow, for example, which is the 29th of Ramadan, tomorrow, not today. Today is the 28th of Ramadan. And as I said, the moon wasn't even born in some countries. What were you trying to say? The moon has not even been born. So tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala, we will have people sighting the moon in London, in Ilford, in Walthamstow, in Croydon, in Birmingham, even Warsaw, Wolverhampton, Manchester, Preston, Scotland, Edinburgh, all over England and Scotland. And then if they sight the moon, well and good, we can make an announcement. But for argument's sake, if the moon is not sighted, then we rely on those countries which have a reliable, verifiable system of moon sighting in place, such as Morocco, such as South Africa, even Zambia, even Oman. And the calculations are saying that in these countries, there is a good chance that the moon can be sighted in these countries. So for example, in South Africa tomorrow, the moon will be 22 hours and 9 minutes. Its altitude would be 6 degrees above the horizon. And you know, when in Urdu, when our ulama, they use the term Mawjudgi-e-Qamar or Wajood-e-Qamar, they must realize that this is what they need to look at, not the lag time. The lag time is the difference between sunset and moonset. It's not Mawjudgi-e-Qamar, or it's not on the horizon or present on the horizon. If you want to know how the moon is present on the horizon, if it's above the horizon, you have to look at the altitude of the moon. And the altitude
of
tomorrow
the moon.
will be 6 degrees. And the elongation will be 11 degrees in Cape Town in South Africa. But even more clear, it will be in Morocco, because in Morocco, the altitude is 10 degrees and the elongation is 13 degrees in the southern area of the Sahara. That is Dakhla in Morocco. And inshallah ta'ala, I firmly believe that the moon, there is a good 95% chance that it will be sighted in Morocco, inshallah. And
actually,
countries as well.
For Sister Ashia, who is asking the question like a million times, you think 95% Eid will be on Sunday for those of us who started Ramadan on a Saturday?
I'm saying it is 95% based on calculations on the possible sighting reports. Possible. Bear in mind, there is a clear difference between possible sighting and actual sighting. Let me illustrate this in very simple terms so your followers could actually understand.
Yeah.
There was a possibility that I would join your program today, but that possibility has now been translated into actual possibility that I am actually talking to you and I am live on your program. Now, if somebody says there's a possibility I'll join, they are factually incorrect. I have already joined.
Yeah.
So we must understand when we talk about possible sighting, it is only possible. The actual sighting is determined on the 29th of the Islamic month.
Okay, so if we go by tomorrow evening, let's have a look. Tomorrow evening, it looks like it's going to be cloudy in the UK. So the chances of people
Yes,
being able to
possible
see the
that the
moon,
weather reports are saying that it will be
yeah.
cloudy. But
And then,
however,
sorry, I'm just gonna just add one more thing before you come back. And then you look at the beginning of Ramadan. I know people in my family who live in Birmingham, for example. People, I've a niece who lives in Bradford who saw the moon with her own naked eye because the sky was clear and were able to see the beginning of Ramadan. So if you can't get those local reports, you would then go to South Africa, Morocco. Why not complete the 30 days?
absolutely, because there is an opinion of the ulama that we can't have rigidity in this, that we can't just sit back and say it hasn't been cited in this country. We can turn to neighboring countries to get those reports. So if we could go to those countries, the actual aim is to get those sighting reports that has the moon been sighted. And if you have those reports from those countries where your time zone matches, you can rely on those countries. And that's why our ulama have agreed on the principle that you could get news from South Africa because their sunset is before us and they have a credible system of moon sighting in place, or even Morocco, because Morocco's sunset takes place more or less the same times as us. And then after an hour or after 40 minutes, we have verifiable reports from there.
Yeah. And just also try to explain. So you've got the situation in Morocco. Morocco follow the same opinion as you, which is local moon sighting reports. And then as long as they're not in conflict with the science, with the astronomy, then you would accept that. Am I right?
Absolutely. However, if for some strange reason Morocco one day would claim that they sight the moon, they have sighted the moon, yet the calculations state that it was virtually impossible to sight the crescent, we would not accept it.
And just tell us what, I mean, the ulama, you and me know about the challenges that exist. Forget the Jubandis and the Salafis and the Wahhabis and all the other groups. Let's just focus on the Brelvis, the Sunnis, the Sufis, the division that existed over the last couple of years with a group deciding to do it based on moon sighting reports from, was it Nigeria or somewhere?
Yes, from Nigeria.
Now, if we can't get all these Sunnis together, what chance is there that we can get the Jubandis and the Salafis and the Ahl Hadith together on this issue for local sighting?
We have to carry on explaining the principles of moon sighting. We have to have these continuous campaigns and educate people. And people like yourself, we need to interact with the ulama to create this awareness. And alhamdulillah, within the Ahl Sunnah denomination, our ulama at a large scale, they understand the science of moon sighting and they advise the Muslim community on how to go about sighting the moon and what to follow, what not to follow. And there are unprecedented incidents, I would say, where people have gone to those countries which they themselves don't follow the principle of moon sighting and they rely on Saudi Arabia. For example, let's look at the start of Ramadan. There was no possibility of any sighting in Nigeria. Yet, the Nigerian authorities, which is their supreme council, they decided to follow Saudi Arabia. And yet they made the claim that we sighted the moon. Now, my argument is not which country you follow. If you want to follow Saudi Arabia, that's fine. But don't make the announcement that you have sighted the crescent moon.
Yeah.
That's what causes confusion.
What's what caused confusion? I just remember in 2009, Raja Saab, I had dinner with the Saudi Foreign Minister, Prince Turki Al Faisal, and he was here for the state visit of King Abdullah. And I remember one of the questions I asked him in that dinner was, why were they forcing people in Britain to follow Saudi Arabia on moon sighting? And you know what his answer was? He said, we don't want anybody to follow us. We'll do what we want to do in Saudi Arabia. But if you live in the United Kingdom, you should agree a local formula which applies to the United Kingdom, and all agree on that. Has there been any work to bring those various groups, the Muslim Council of Britain, Muslim Association of Britain, all these different groups, Regent's Park Mosque, Gumgol Sheaf Mosque, all of them together to just start the process of having a dialogue and debate and discussion in a responsible, tolerant way, so that this embarrassment that we have year after year of 2 different Eids and 2 Ramadans can be eradicated?
You raise a very important question. Firstly, look, Saudi Arabia do not ask anyone to follow them.
Yeah.
The Grand Imam of the Grand Mosque, Haramain Sharifain, Sheikh Sudais, was in Birmingham. I was there when he openly said that we do not ask anyone to follow us. So they are pleading to people, don't follow Saudi, don't follow us, develop your own systems. And to be honest with you, we following the instructions of the ulama, and the ulama of Haramain Sharifain have developed our own system. This is our system. And alhamdulillah, for the past 5 years, we have encouraged organizations to join the criterion of local sighting. And if local sighting doesn't give us the reports on that day, to follow and get reports from neighboring countries. And we've developed a tracking system, what we call a global lunar radar system, in this document, which we use to make announcements on the TV channel, on Noor TV as well. And in this, we follow countries, first our own country where we live, Great Britain, United Kingdom, Morocco, South Africa. But if you can't get those reports in these countries, we can refer to countries like the Reunion, for example. We could look at European countries. We could look at Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Malawi, who have good systems in place, and
but not
who have
Nigeria.
a 12 monthly system in place.
But not Nigeria.
Nigeria does not have a 12 monthly system in place. Nigeria does not rely on local sightings for the month of Ramadan, Shawwal, and Zulhijjah. They go to Saudi Arabia.
Okay, I'm just trying to see if Kamaruddin Saab is watching. I know you're watching, sir, because you're messaging. I think what you need to do is you need to refresh your Facebook, update it, because there's been a software update, and then I'll be able to add you. So if you are watching, Kamaruddin was supposed to be my second guest. We'll carry on with Raja Saab until we get that. So the fact remains, local sighting, and in the case local sighting doesn't give you what you want, then you go to somewhere like Morocco and South Africa. Can I share some good stories? In Rochdale, for example, you've got the Jubundis, the Brailvis, the UK Islamic Mission, all together, about 19 mosques have a same formula, local sighting, Morocco or South Africa. How does it work? You can't announce it until after Maghrib here in the UK, even though South Africa and Morocco have already announced their Eid, the moon's been sighted. Are you saying that people have to wait until after Maghrib to make the announcement here in the UK?
That answers your earlier question, that if we rely exclusively on local sighting, then yes, we do wait. But obviously we don't switch off from the rest of the world. If South Africa has sighted or Zambia has sighted the moon, we take that into account, but we wait to make the final exclusive or conclusive announcement. But even before, like if somebody asks me 3 weeks before, when is Eid? Based on these calculations, I normally give an indication. This is known as imkane royat. So based on the principles of imkane royat, substantiated by your evidence through calculations, we give this evidence.
Okay.
However, the final conclusive announcement is made by the ulama, and we use the TV channel as a medium to broadcast this. And we've got our own board established, which advises the TV,
Yeah.
and which has all the muftis on board, which has all the ulama on board. So we have this big consultation process,
But you
and
have
then through consultation we announce.
But you have 5 different announcements from 5 different Jamaats within the Sunnis, don't you?
That is an unfortunate situation, but however, we could have 100 announcements. My primary aim and objective is not to prevent any organization from taking the step of announcing. My primary objective is to ensure that the date is all one, because it's the end result which causes mass chaos and mass confusion, not who's announcing. So, for example, if tomorrow 200 organizations of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and also the Deobandi and the Shia and also the other schools of thought, they all announce differently, I don't object to that. I object when there's a clash in the dates and we have moon fighting in process and moon wars in process. That's my real concern, that I want to prevent that from happening.
And tell us more about, what do you think about the New Crescent Society, which is popped up in recent months, is quite active on this issue as well. And what would you say about them?
Look, the New Crescent Society are doing an excellent job. They have really transformed people's hearts and minds. They've reached out to communities, which is a great service, and they are creating huge awareness amongst the Muslim community. And also they've reached out to the Greenwich Observatory, the Royal Greenwich Observatory, liaising with their staff and also taking them on board, and also consulting ulama, the mosques. And they've got this social media channel, and through social media channels they are creating this awareness. Alhamdulillah, it's all in the same direction of having local sighting, and then if local sighting doesn't work, then we can look at those countries which have reliable and verifiable, credible moon sighting reports. But one thing I take this opportunity in bringing to the attention of your followers and those who are watching us, is that there's an argument that, look, in the UK, the moon cannot be sighted. And there are ulama who make this statement that in Britain, it is always cloudy, you cannot sight the moon, therefore we have to follow calculations or follow Saudi Arabia. That, I think, is a completely factually incorrect statement to make. For example, this year, 1441, for Muharram, the moon was seen in London. It was seen in European countries. It was seen in Spain. It was seen in Huddersfield. For Safar, the moon was seen in European countries. And if I go back, I've got all of the astronomical reports where the moon was actually seen. 1438, the Shaban moon, on 27th of April 2017, which was the 29th of Rajab. So on the 29th of Rajab, we also saw the moon in York, in Leicester, in Manchester, even in Coventry, it was seen. And then you may remember that Shawwal 1440 last year, which was Eid, on the 29th of Ramadan, the moon was seen in Hackney, it was seen in Walthamstow, it was seen in Greenwich, and this was broadcasted live on TV. So I think those who say that the moon cannot be sighted in the UK really need to get their facts correct.
Okay.
Yes, there are some months that the moon cannot be sighted, but there are some months of the Islamic calendar when the moon does get sighted and will get sighted. Now, there are some months in Pakistan, for example, when the moon is not sighted. There are some months when it does get sighted. So this principle applies to all countries, but that is not an excuse that we abandon local moon sighting. And I heard somebody on
Okay, so we abandoned.
the other day talking on Facebook and saying that in the years ahead, the new trend will be calculations. I beg to disagree. I think in the years ahead, if we now look what is happening now and take this as a model of what can happen in the years ahead, you have organizations like the New Crescent Society. You have the organizations like Noor TV, Royat Hilal Board, which are encouraging people to look at local moon sighting. So I think the new trend or the new normal will be local moon sighting rather than abandoning local moon sighting and relying on calculations. Once again, I would encourage those ulama who make such statements to please come out of their small circles and look outside of what is happening. Look outside.
That was
Look
one of
in
the
London.
questions.
People are sighting the moon.
Yeah, people are sighting the moon, and that's why Sheikh Abu Adam al-Shirazi is saying that there's been attempts to bring people together. I really love to talk to somebody from the Muslim Council of Britain, which is generally Regent's Park Mosque and others, who genuinely think it's just easy to follow the Saudis. They put a post this afternoon, and I remember sending it to you. I think it may have been a typo or somebody very eager in the office saying that Eid has been announced for Saturday, the 23rd of May. I think that might have been a typo because obviously Regent's Park Mosque always follows Saudis. So just tell us a bit about the Qura calendar. What is the Qura calendar in very simple terms?
If I could just make a quick comment on your typo error. Obviously, we can't comment if somebody makes a mistake. It's a mistake. We all make mistakes. Quite understandable. Sometimes I get the dates wrong. I get the day wrong. Quite understandable. We're human beings. We make errors both whilst talking or when we write something. We then realize after we've written the article that we've made a mistake. However, those mosques which announced at 4:50 today that the moon has not been sighted in Saudi Arabia, I asked them the question, please tell me, when was the moon born? The moon wasn't even born then. How could you talk about the sighting of the crescent when the conjunction hasn't even taken place? And let us also bear in mind.
Sorry, just for viewers' sake. So the first step is that for the moon has to be born.
Absolutely.
For there be an attempt to sight it. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, because the first stage is the stage of conjunction. So when we say conjunction, it's the moon, the sun, and the earth all come in one line. This is called the solar line.
Yeah.
Now, the lunar line, sorry. So when we've got this line, you cannot actually sight anything at this point. But when time passes by, the moon and the earth, the sun, they actually separate from each other. And the crescent moon goes above the horizon. And at the point of 5 degrees altitude, it becomes the crescent.
Okay,
It doesn't mean the crescent will be seen, but it moves into the state of the crescent. So at that stage, you could say it's a crescent. Now we start making attempts to actually sight it. So those who are announcing at 4:50, we haven't even reached the state of conjunction yet. The baby has not even been born yet.
So even started. The delivery's not even started. So Jamie Clayton, Jamie Clayton is saying the Saudis are not pleading for people not to follow them. They're just saying they don't force people to follow. It's two different things. Yeah, I think we've made that very clear in the discussions that I had with the Saudi Foreign Minister, the discussions that Raja Zahid Nawaz you've had with Sheikh Sudais is they don't want people to follow them. They want people to have a local agreed formula. And that's what needs to happen. Let me just get through some of these comments, if you will allow me, Raja Sahab. Rahman Faiz talks about a tracking system. Lukman says, Qura, we're coming to Qura, Lukman Bhai, we're coming there, don't worry. The next question, inshallah, will be on, the next answer will be on Qura. Bring the moon to Britain, we want our moon back. Joshua, I love these comments. Thank you for them. Shuaib Malik Saab, the one and only. No point in dialogue. The Saudi scholars said, don't follow Saudi. It's the fault of Islam Channel, etc. When they make the announcement, they make it as if it's for the UK and the whole world. Well, you talk about Islam Channel. I know British Muslim TV, who I work for, that they also follow Regent's Park Mosque. The key figure in this seems to be Regent's Park Mosque and the Saudis. Is there a way? We'll talk about that. But Raja Sahib, let's just talk about the Al Qura calendar. What is the Al Qura calendar?
The Al Qura calendar, as I explained, the 3 phases of the Saudi Arabia's moon sighting criterion. This is based on 2 principles: that the moon is born before sunset, number 1 criterion. And the number 2 criterion, the element of it, is that the moon will have to set after the sun. So moon set after sunset, and the moon being born before, the conjunction has to take place before sunset. That is the Al Qura calendar. There is no actual sighting here. No actual sighting.
So there's no base sighting, but the base of the principle is modern technology, astronomy, strong enough to say if the moon has been born, that should be sufficient to start the months. You say
no.
They say yes, the Saudis say yes, but you say no.
You see, the Saudis don't say yes. That's the problem. The Saudi announcement is something else. The criterion is something else. This is where the confusion starts. Whenever you see the announcement, the official announcement of Saudi Arabia, they announce that the moon has been sighted.
Yeah.
We say to the announcements of such announcements and those who make those announcements is that don't make those announcements, because the moon cannot be even, it's not even above the horizon to be sighted.
So if the people who said that the moon's been seen and they've gone to a mufti or they've gone to a local moon sighting setup and made that declaration, and they're a good standing people in society, if that conflicts with the science and with the astronomy, then you would reject that shahada?
Yes, because if you look at the people who are making the announcements, it's very cynical that every year in Saudi Arabia, there's 2 places, Sudayr and Shakra, where they get the news from. And it's only 1 or 2 people, the same people every year, who claim to sight the moon at either 4 o'clock in the day or 12 o'clock in midday. They say we've sighted the moon. And for some bizarre reason, even that evidence has been accepted. And our ulama have categorically said that we cannot accept such news, which actually contradicts the actual.
Okay, we possibly having some connection issues there. So the Al Qura is based on the birth of the moon and the calculation of the moon. Raja Sahib, I think your connection is dropping there. So let's see if we can get the connection better. I don't really want to cut Raja Sahib off there. Sorry, Raja Sahib, we seem to be having some technical problems there. So let's see if we can get... we'll wait. So Shuaib Malik thinks there shouldn't be a dialogue. What's the point? Let's go back. Sorry, I'm trying to go back here. Okay, so Raja Sahib has dropped off. Let's see if I can get where the comments gone. Here we are. So sorry. Jamie Clayton says Zimbabwe is 1 hour different to us. What is the boundaries? Where's the boundaries? Shafiq Mohammed says, where's the boundaries for local? Hope they are not site pickets. I don't know what you mean by that, brother. Raja Sahib, are you back?
I am back. We had a poor connection again.
Sorry. Poor connection. So Nigeria is the time the same. I think you've answered Nigeria because they don't have the same setup in terms of moon sighting throughout the year. Tessin J says, who's up for a moon sighting tonight? LOL. I think it'll just be you, me, Tessin. Shuaib Malik says, revive the Sunnah, not Saudi Riyals. Malik Saab is mashallah. You know Malik Saab, don't you? Welcome to Vakas Hussain, Wasim, Mohammed, Noveen, Yasin, Nasir Iqbal. Somebody is watching, Dolis Mia. Kamaruddin, I cannot find the new Facebook update. Kamaruddin says, Kamaruddin Saab, what you have to do is you have to go into your software update. So if you've got an iPhone, it'd be your App Store. And if it's the Samsung, it'd be, what would it be? It'd be your... Have you got a Samsung, Raja Saab?
Yes, I've got a Samsung.
What's the store called? App Store?
You've got me now. I just used your link and it gave me an option to connect. So I must have the most up-to-date software on the phone.
Yeah, you must, yeah. So Kamaruddin, you just need to literally go to your App Store and look at for Facebook app, and it'll probably need updating. I think that's what it is, because they've had an update in a recent week to allow us. Raj Saab, just get through some of these comments because there's loads. Kamaruddin Saab, who was supposed to have on as a guest for the second part, he's obviously not able to join us because he can't join us. But what's your views on Kamaruddin? He's been really active in getting the Jubandi community, particularly, to go back to local moon sighting, and he's doing a lot of work on training and upskilling young people to take groups out on the 29th and to do that.
On Brother Kamaruddin, you know, there's a famous saying that even if you have actually learned one word from somebody or one letter, they are classed as your teachers, your guides. Brother Kamaruddin, I've learned a lot from him, so I consider him as my ustad, my teacher. So what can I say? He's a great man who's done great service, and he's really knowledgeable on moon sighting. And whenever I get stuck in this field, I turn to people like Kamaruddin and also my own ulama karam for guidance, and alhamdulillah, they give solid evidence-based guidance.
But do you know what? When I see what's going on in this country, and I suppose in every workplace, in every primary school, in every job, we have difference, and it's just embarrassing that we have two different Eids. And you know, some people, you know, want to book a day off for Eid and can't book the day off because they don't know when it's going to be. How can we stop this embarrassment? How can we ensure that there is one Eid across the country that includes the Shias, includes the Barelvis, includes the Jubandis, the Wahhabis, the Salafis, all the mainstream Muslim opinion, and have one calculation, one process, and everybody do it on the same day? Is that even possible anymore?
It's very possible. The day people stop following Saudi Arabia, all our problems will be resolved. The root cause of the problem, as I set out in my opening talk, the root cause of the problem is that people follow Saudi Arabia blindly, without realizing that Saudi Arabia themselves follow a calendar. And it's that calendar which causes confusion, and the announcement.
This is the Qura.
The announcement is different from what the principle of the calendar is. If the announcement was that according to the Qura calendar, Eid or Ramadan will be on this date, I think 95% of the problems will be resolved.
Okay, let's get through some of these comments.
People will know what they are following. At the moment, some people still blindly think that the moon has not been sighted in Saudi Arabia, when the moon hasn't even reached the stages of conjunction. Or the moon cannot be even sighted because it is below the horizon, and someone makes the claim, one person makes the claim that the moon cannot be sighted.
Are you saying that they're lying?
I am saying there's a contradiction between the announcement and the calendar, principles of the calendar.
And the announcement of the moon sighting.
The actual announcement is that we've sighted the moon. whereas the principles of the calendar are something else, and the calculations are saying something else. So you have a three-way contradiction which causes mass confusion. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's
I'm
go.
not calling in the month of Ramadan, Allah forbid, I'm not calling anybody a liar or a
Yeah.
hypocrite. All I'm saying is there is mass contradictions in the statement, in the calendar, and the calculations.
And Naveed Khan asks, what constitutes as local? Is it UK or is it just England or Europe? What's the boundaries in terms of local sighting?
When we say local, we're saying it in loose terms, not in any technical or fic terms. So we are saying our own country, that we must encourage
Okay.
people, because we've started from a standard where the practice of sighting the moon wasn't very common. And thanks to organizations like Wifaqul Ulama, like the New Crescent Society, like Noor TV, Royat Hilal Board, people are now getting encouraged. And also our large mosques, let's not forget to mention them, Gamgol Sharif, for example. They have encouraged a culture of local moon sighting, which is very promising. And when you look at the people who are actually sighting them, trying to sight the moon, it's not the elders, it's
It's
the
the
young
youngsters.
Muslims.
Yeah.
So this is an encouraging trend, that our young Muslims are getting interested in the science of moon sighting and in the practice of moon sighting.
And how easy
So
is
this
it?
can change.
How easy is it to set up local moon sighting groups to
Very
go and do?
easy, very easy. Across, right from London to Midlands, and from Midlands to North and up to Scotland, there are established moon sighting boards or moon sighting committees or local groups. And I'm more than happy to give you contact details of people
Hmm.
in each of the areas, and they could meet at the sighting points. And
Yeah.
there is a map available on the website where people could actually put their finger on. It's an interactive map, and it
Yeah.
will tell them exactly where the sighting points are.
Okay, Sayyid Asif Ali Shah Sahab said, as the only Muslim at my workplace, it's becoming almost impossible to explain to my colleagues why we have separate Eids. It's a bit like Easter, Christmas, isn't it? That you have Christmas for most of the world on the 25th of December, but you have the Orthodox Christians in Russia and Eastern European countries, don't you, Raja Sahab? And they have their Christmas Day. I think it's on the 9th or the 10th of January, don't they? So it's
That's
not
right.
uniquely
That's
a
right.
Muslim thing. It's something which happens in some of the other groups as well, doesn't it?
And especially those worships which are dependent upon something which is not exactly something which is very precise. The problem is, moon sighting is a science, but it also has an element of either or. So
Hmm.
either it will be on the 29th or
Hmm.
it will be on the 30th. So that either or situation is inbuilt in the science of Islamic moon sighting. I can't take that out. You can't take
Hmm.
that out. It's written. It's inscribed in the texts of hadith, that if you see it on the 29th, well and good. However, if it's cloudy,
Yeah.
complete your 30-day duration. Now, this is the either or situation. What some people try to do in this either or situation, they try to make it perfect and say, why can't we have it on this day, and why can't we have it on this day? We can't make it as perfect as they want to. And they give an
Hmm.
example that, oh, look, we rely on timings for our 5 times prayers. They forget the point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran has said that we perform our salah on the prescribed times. It's
Waki
fixed.
Waki
Fixed.
Musalata wa atu zakat warkau
It's
marwakin.
fixed. Mawquta, it's fixed.
Yeah.
So there is no either or. You can't offer
So
Zor
why
at
can't
Asr
we?
and Asr at Zor. It's fixed.
Okay.
But
So
when it
what?
comes to moon sighting, you have a situation, either it's 29th or it's 30th. So there is, I
Hmm.
won't use the element of doubt, but there is this element of either it's on the 29th or it's on the 29th. Now, when you have a sort of a fluid situation,
Yeah.
which could be either 29th or the 30th, I can't go along and fix that to one particular date.
Okay, so then you got Tan Mahmood Qadri Saab asking, we pray for and Maghrib with local sightings and fast with local sightings. So why do people follow Saudi Arabia when it comes to Eid? Good point there. Just get through some of these. Sohail Afsar says, when Eid is Eid ul-Adha is announced, people link it directly with Hajj. Can you please, let's get, Sohail Saab, let's get Eid ul-Fitr done, and we'll do a special program on
Yeah,
Eid
but just to
ul-Adha.
very briefly say to the dear brother, Eid al-Adha is not connected to Yom Arafah.
Yeah, it's a big
Remember
point.
that.
It's a very
You
important
will
point.
have to determine the first of Zulhijjah wherever you live. This principle
That's a
is
really good
not
point.
just
But
this point is not just for Muslims living in Europe or Great Britain. Look, why doesn't Pakistan, why doesn't Bangladesh, why doesn't India? They could see on their big 70-inch screens that Yom Arafah, Hajj is being performed on one day, yet they do not do Eid on the following day.
yeah,
They
it's a
know
very.
that where Hajj is taking place, they rely on local sighting of determining the first of Zulhijjah.
And just tell me, why not just follow Saudi?
Why not
सारे
follow Saudi?
रोले मुकी जा सकते ना?
नहीं, देखिए ये इंतशार खत्म नहीं हो सकता. You have to understand which country you are following. You can't follow the country for the sake of following a country. You have to understand what is their system. I would be the first person to say, let us follow Saudi Arabia if they change their calendar. All they need to do is make one fundamental change. From conjunction, they need to move the calendar to crescent visibility, which will increase it to another day. We will all say, let us follow Saudi Arabia.
And
There
they'll
would
be
be no
over.
problem.
Okay.
Unless they make that change. And if Saudi Arabia wants to become the center where all of the Muslim Ummah majority is following them, we have petitioned the Saudi embassy for at least 2 years. And this was an initiative which Brother Kamaruddin led to actually change the calendar. And when you talk to them on a one-to-one level, they agree with your line of
They
thinking.
do.
You
Yeah.
mentioned the Muslim Council of Britain. I spoke to Sir Iqbal Sakrani on the phone about this, and he said to me, he said, Raja Saab, you are preaching to the convinced. I am already, I agree with you, but try convincing our ulema. So they have a problem. There is some kind of loyalty amongst the circle of that school of thought that they want to follow Saudi Arabia. And my message to them is, by all means, follow Saudi Arabia, but make sure that is reflected in the announcement you make. I saw a poster on one of the, I think it was one of the London mosques today, on one of the WhatsApp groups, which our brother Khalid Malik is the moderator of. And on that WhatsApp group, somebody said, we will make our announcement based on the Saudi announcement. Now, that is great because at least you know where that mosque stands, that they are making it quite clear that they are following Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So, whatever the principle of Saudi, that mosque has the same principle. The mosque has no principle of its own other than the principle to follow Saudi Arabia.
Okay, I think that's a really good point that you're raising there. I'm just going through some of these comments. Sorry, and it actually defines families as well, doesn't it? You have people in the same family, one brother doing it one day, one brother doing a different day.
It causes huge confusion amongst public workers. People need to take holidays, and that's why I say that any principle to resolve this problem will have to look at the concept of forward planning.
Gee.
And that's why I'm saying that the principle of possible sighting, relying on calculations, can be used to give a good, solid indication to the Muslim communities so they could plan ahead. But the final announcement has to be made on the 28th, 29th after sunset.
After sunset. So, for example, ours would be tomorrow. So the announcement because I often get criticized because I'm in touch with people in South Africa and Morocco, and as soon as they make their announcements, because they're ahead of us, a couple hours ahead of us, what we need to then do is the mosque and the committees where, I mean, talk to about Rochdale, the Ruhelat committee, they have a meeting after Maghrib, they do iftari together, then they have a meeting, then they take all the evidence, and then they make their announcement. But if Morocco already announced it 2 hours earlier, you can take that to mean that there's going to be definitely Eid the day after.
Yes, if South Africa announces, for example, an hour and a half before,
Yeah.
that you by all means share that news that the crescent has been sighted in South Africa, the crescent has been sighted in Oman, for example. It can't, Morocco won't announce before us. Morocco will announce after us or a bit later on. Because let's understand one thing, where there is a system of moon sighting, they've got committees established across the country. To verify the reports, it takes at least 40 to 45 minutes. And when there's ambiguity, it may take a bit longer, an hour, to deliberate on those, the news that they get in. So this isn't a light switch that you switch on and say, oh, Morocco's seen the moon, South Africa's seen the moon. Those countries which have established moon sighting systems, they take at least 40 to 45 minutes or even longer after their local sunset to verify the news they have received. Then they make a formal statement.
Yeah, no. So, for example, in Pakistan, Mufti Munibur Rahman Sahib, he's the head of the Ruhelat committee, and he goes there with his committee, and there's a telescope, and national TV, all the news networks carry this live, and they show the actual new moon. I don't know if you've seen this in previous years, the beginning of Ramadan, they show the moon. How come we don't see that from South Africa or Morocco or Saudi Arabia when they make the announcement and say, we've seen the moon, well, here's the moon, here's an image of it, or here is the live feed of giving the moon?
You see, you won't get it from Saudi Arabia because obviously there is no, the moon hasn't even reached the stage of conjunction. What can they show you? An empty sky. So there is no system in Saudi Arabia for that. However, when the moon, the crescent gets sighted, say in South Africa or Morocco, they send us the images and we actually circulate those on social media. And in some instances where there is a live feed, the Shawwal last year, for example, we gave a live feed on TV where people saw the crescent for Shawwal. And the atmosphere and the emotions of people are so lively at a time when they see the crescent moon. And that's why we are encouraged to see the crescent. I'm not sure if you've actually gone out to actually physically sight the crescent.
I have once.
And you saw the crescent.
No, we didn't see the crescent, but we went out to see it.
I've been fortunate to actually go out and sight it, and
Mashallah.
and the emotions in people around you who actually see the crescent. And this is the time to rejoice and say, you know, where they said, we've seen the crescent, and they shout and they say they've seen the crescent. And there is a specific dua which is in the hadith that when you see the crescent, you read the dua. You read the dua when you see the crescent, not when you see your laptop and the calculations.
Yeah, it's really important.
You see the crescent, and then you read the dua.
Just a few more points, Azad, just before we finish. And then just tell me about, sometimes the calculation says, the astronomy says that the moon is visible in somewhere like Chile, South America. But are you saying that you can't take that declaration from that country because you've already passed your sunset and they've not reached their stage of their sunset? Am I right?
So for example, if someone was to say that the moon will be visible or can be sighted in Chile, for example, or Panama or Hawaii or South American states, someone even said, why not Chicago? Now, the question is, once again, when you start talking about Chicago, for example, now if I say, oh yes, the moon can be sighted in Chicago, can be is not sufficient enough. We're not talking about calculations. We are talking about actual sighting.
Yeah, yeah,
Chicago is 6 hours behind. Hawaii is 11 hours behind. Panama
yeah,
is 6 hours behind.
yeah.
Chile will be 5 hours behind. So if I was to say follow Chicago, I would keep the Muslim community awake until 10 o'clock morning, and still we would have no announcement because we're waiting for Chicago. And
Yeah.
one day of Ramadan has nearly lapsed. We've entered into the next day. It's
So,
completely
so
impractical to follow those countries which fall into our time zone. Those are
yeah,
acceptable.
those are acceptable, and
Subject
time.
to subject to they having a proper verifiable moon sighting system in their country for 12 months,
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you.
which can be backed up by astronomical calculations.
Now, you've been very passionate about this. You've got loads and loads of knowledge on this. How can we? How can people watching this, but people who will watch it afterwards? How can we get all the groups together to to try to get a unified position?
Look, firstly, look, I don't have loads and loads of knowledge on this. I have some by sitting in the
No,
company
no.
of the ulama and learned scholars
Allah
like
bless you,
Brother
man.
Kamaruddin in this field. I have a little interest in this field, and the aim is to bring the Muslim Ummah and the Muslim community, especially in this country, together on this principle. I think how we could actually bring the Muslim community together is first through a process of education,
Hmm.
awareness, and social media is a powerful tool in this. And also initiatives like the initiative taken by Wifaqul Ulama, for example, and bringing all these communities and Muslim groups together. I think
I
that's
mean,
very important. And
yeah.
this memorandum of understanding, it's the UK moon sighting policy memorandum of understanding. This was covered by the Birmingham Mail, for example, which gave extensive coverage
Hmm.
explaining every clause of this moon sighting memorandum. And similarly, New Crescent Society, which have encouraged people to go out and sight the moon. All of these organizations, whether it's Noor TV, whether it's
Hmm.
the your Bartley Mosque, whether it's the Wifaq ul Ulama, the New Crescent Society, all of them have one thing in common. They're encouraging people to engage in local moon
Local
sighting
sighting, which is the
compulsory,
most
right?
important, which is the most
Absolutely. And also
important.
relying on calculations as supporting evidence, not
Okay.
making decisions exclusively on calculations, but using it to support or negate or accept moon sighting reports.
Okay, so I think we're gonna just literally say thank you so much, Kibla Raja Zahid Nawaz, for clearing that up and providing as much clarity as you've just done for people who want to know the issue. So I said at the beginning of the month, just follow your local mosque. If you go to the mosque for your namaz, all your five namazes, your Jummah, your janazeh, your everything, why follow a different mosque for Eid? Just follow your local mosque and who
Can
will
I,
follow their
can I,
local
can I,
criteria.
that's
Is
a
that is that is that a correct advice?
no, I mean, it's partly it's logical advice,
Hmm.
but if I was to analyze it further, the common person, the common Muslim person who goes to a mosque, if they follow their mosque with full conviction, I
Yeah.
cannot blame that individual for getting the date wrong. It is the people who are responsible. The imam of the mosque cannot be exonerated. Let me categorically
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
he has a duty to ensure that he does his research, he does his homework, he contacts moon sighting committees and organizations. There is no exoneration or exit strategy for the ulama. For
Hmm.
the management committees, they have no exit strategy because they are in a position of power. But the common person who goes to a mosque and follows that mosque, I personally think there is no burden upon their shoulders. If the mosque gets the date wrong, it's up to the imam and the management committee.
Committee to sort that out.
For example, I go to a mosque and I'm a common Muslim. My mosque gives me a timetable, and the Seri times are all incorrect, for example, for the whole 30 days. I will be following that timetable because that's my local mosque. I am not accountable for producing that timetable. It
Hmm.
is those who have produced that. And if they, sorry, have sat in front of a photocopier and pressed 400 copies and circulated that without taking the time to understand where these times have come
Yeah.
from, who's made them, I think they are responsible,
Well,
not your common Muslim community.
well, thank you so much, Raja Zahid Nawaz, for coming on and talking about it and providing some clarity for people watching this. I hope you've all found it very, very useful. So, Raja Sahab, very happy Eid Mubarak to you
And
and your
Jazakallah for
family.
having me online. Thank you.
Thank you so
Assalamu
much,
alaikum wa
Raja
rahmatullahi
Zahid
wa
Nawaz,
barakatuh.
who's been giving us some really important points and history and really talking in great detail about how it's important for us to come together and trying to agree one formula. What's been really interesting, I suppose, my lessons from the conversation with Raja Zahid Nawaz, apologies to that we weren't able to bring you Kamaruddin. Very important that we get him on board as well. Maybe we can do that once the technical side of it was sorted. But it's about local agreement on local, deciding what a local process is, and that should be the best way forward. But I just want to take the opportunity, whilst some of you watching this live, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're finding this very, very useful. So inshallah, we'll try to bring in some of the scholars and some of the people to get their perspective as well on this issue and other common issues. But on this blessed night of Ramadan, what will be the final night for many of us, for some of us, obviously, it will be the 30th Sehri in the morning. For some of us, it will be the 29th. For me personally, it's the 29th. So hopefully, inshallah, we'll all have one Eid. It's the lockdown. Please stay at home. Keep yourself and your family safe. And inshallah, Aziz, have a blessed Eid Mubarak. And tomorrow, inshallah, we'll have a scholar to talk through Eid namaz under lockdown, coronavirus lockdown. And inshallah, we'll do that same time tomorrow, inshallah, 7 o'clock. So from me, Mohammed Shafiq, thank you so much. Have a good evening. Remember me, and remember particularly the people in Karachi in that plane crash this morning. Allah Ta'ala bless them with Jannah, give the families sabr. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.